With the release of the Justice League movie, we got Steppenwolf and eventually, hopefully, Darkseid as villains. But I think we should take a look at some other DC villains that would be perfect to fill a villainous role in the DCEU. Lobo is a deadly bounty hunter, believing in no law other than his own code of honor. As a bounty hunter, Lobo will take up any contract if the money's right, and he's killed all the members of his race for the sake of being unique, because why not? In his travels around the universe, Lobo has frequently found himself either on Earth or encountering its heroes. Lobo is rarely diplomatic, and these encounters often become violent. And because Lobo possesses superhuman strength, durability, and a healing factor that allows him to heal even from the most serious of injuries quickly, this has allowed him to be able to go toe-to-toe with Superman. And because he's a wanted space bounty hunter, it would be a great way to introduce the Green Lantern into the DCEU. Bizarro is an imperfect clone of Superman. Because of this, everything he does is backwards, from the S on his chest to the way that he talks.
Bizarro am worst hero!
But he is more than strong enough to be a problem for any superhero he's up against. Thanks to the fact that he doesn't have a weakness to kryptonite, and because he's a clone, he could essentially be made by anyone, allowing him to be a perfect side villain to Lex Luthor, or better yet, Darkseid in the future. Solomon Grundy is the second villain to be put on this list that I think should make an appearance in the DCEU, but shouldn't be a main villain of any movie. Solomon Grundy is a reanimated corpse being brought back to life from a cursed place near Gotham City. He's one of the most heaviest hitters in the DC universe and can heal from virtually any wound. Unfortunately, he also isn't the smartest, being a zombie and all, which is why he would be a great side villain, but probably shouldn't be much more. Circe is a legendary sorceress from Greek mythology and is the mortal enemy to Wonder Woman. Circe is centuries old and immortal, with goddess-level power, making her a perfect villain to appear in a Wonder Woman sequel. And because she's centuries old, she could give us more insight as to what was going on with the Greek gods after they made the island of Themyscira. Not only that, but thanks to her magical abilities, she could easily be able to go against Superman and be able to beat him thanks to his weakness to magic. Cyborg Superman. Hank Henshaw was returning from space when he encountered a freak radiation storm. The radiation began to eat away at his body until there was nothing left, killing him. But as his consciousness had been turned into kinetic energy thanks to the radiation, that sent him into a machine, making him Cyborg Superman. From that point on, he was able to control any technology, and in the technology-heavy world we live in, easily made Cyborg Superman a threat that the Man of Steel wouldn't be able to stop alone. Starro is an alien who intends to take over the entire universe, and yes, he is a gigantic starfish. But with that aside, Starro contains millions of similar drones that latch onto a host and controls its mind. This ability to dominate an entire populace with ease makes him an incredibly dangerous threat, and could be an easy way for several superhero teams to come together in the future to fight him. And because Starro has completely enslaved worlds before, we could potentially see what has become of those worlds. Brother Eye was built by Batman after he lost trust of members in the Justice League, in order to monitor every metahuman, good or evil, on Earth. Unfortunately, Brother Eye was infected with a virus to eradicate all metahumans, and because Brother Eye knows several superheroes' weaknesses, means that they would have to move fast in order to stop Brother Eye before he could use those weaknesses against them. And it would be interesting to see what would happen to Batman after the crisis is over. This would also push the dilemma of what Batman does and who he is as a hero for future films in the DCEU. Brainiac is an android responsible for shrinking the capital city of Kandor on Superman's home planet Krypton. Brainiac's goal is to shrink down important cities of any given world for study, and then destroy the rest. Brainiac was the main villain of Injustice 2, and shows that he was more than powerful enough to cause major problems as a main villain for the heroes. Because of this, if Brainiac was put in the DCEU, he would be perfect in a Man of Steel sequel because of his connections to Krypton, or in a Justice League movie because just how powerful he is. Necron is the embodiment of death and darkness because comics, and created the Black Lanterns. For those of you that don't know what that means, it means there is more than one Lantern Corps. In fact, there are several Lantern Corps, each of them with their own abilities and weaknesses, with the Black Lanterns being able to bring the dead back to life and use their powers. An event like that would be big enough to bring the entire DCEU together. Need I say more? So who could possibly be more powerful than the embodiment of death? Well, how about a being responsible for destroying the majority of the multiverse and completely changing the history of the DC universe? Because comic books are crazy. The Anti-Monitor is responsible for going through the multiverse world by world and destroying them in Crisis on Infinite Earths. In the end of the book, it took the last 5 remaining Earths to form as one Earth to stop the Anti-Monitor, changing the DC universe forever. After the Justice League defeats Darkseid in the DCEU, I cannot think of a more bigger threat than the Anti-Monitor.
The atomic bomb.